as the last feeble, flickering breaths of the city's artificial lights faded behind me like faded, ossified memories forgotten on the bloody, decayed edges of a torn darkness. Interstate 47's massive, rusted, ragged sign, stained with dried blood, rose like a broken, uncanny tombstone bisecting the sky. Its faded, illegible, ominous letters in eerie, eternal farewell. The cracked, icy, bloody screen of my navigator was full of meaningless lines, flickering symbols, eerie static and vague, bloody images, like a reflection of 1,000 broken dreams, last regrets and eternal torment, stubbornly shouting no satellite connection. The only sound coming from the radio was intermittent static, like a muffled, wheezing, putrid moan rising from a deep, damp, bloody grave, with the occasional sharp, glassy, soul-shattering sound of children's cries, hysterical, predatory female screams and muffled, bloody male growls clawing at my ears like a chilling, terrifying symphony. In the middle of this one-man journey through hell, which had been going on for over 3 hours, the bone-chilling, absolute, eternal desolation of the highway and the horrifying, blood-curdling, inconceivable rumors about it were like a hand of ice slowly, mercilessly, eternally squeezing my soul. At night, whispers echoed in my ears of those who traveled this cursed, endless, bloody road, where reality melted, logic evaporated. GPSs went crazy, time warped, and the journey became an eternal nightmare. With a cynical smile, I refused to believe these dark, bloody, rotten tales that pushed the limits of logic and science until the icy, sharp, bloody claws of cold, bone-deep terror gripped me. The air suddenly sharpened, as if by the breath of an invisible executioner, filling my lungs with ice, freezing my blood, rotting my soul. A dense, pitch-black, tar-black, bloody fog enveloped me like a sticky, suffocating, rotten shroud, mercilessly swallowing the puny, flickering, yellowish, bloody light of my headlights. My visibility was as narrow as the darkness inside a body bag that had come between me and my helpless eyes, wide open with terror and lined with old blood vessels. The GPS finally sank into the depths of silence, my phone in my hand like a lifeless, cold, weighted, bloody tombstone. My heart fluttered helplessly in my chest like a rotten bird with plucked wings and a broken beak, each beat extinguishing another shred of hope. I pulled the car into the right lane with trembling, icy, sweaty, bloody hands, and the sudden, eerie, eternal silence of the engine made the terrifying, suppressed, painful, bloody sounds in the bosom of the desolation even clearer. "It's just exhaustion," I whispered in my cracked, shaky, dry, bloody voice. But the thick, deadly, bloody, rotten fog that surrounded me screamed that this was a cruel, inevitable, eternal prophecy. The minutes stretched on like an eternity, every second a torture, a torment, an eternal curse. It was as if the fog was a living, hungry, voracious, bloody monster, writhing around the car, clinging to the windows, trying to sneak in. I could feel its cold, damp, musty, bloody breath on the back of my neck. The howling from outside was now even more unbearable, deafening, soul-destroying, like the echo of 1,000 lost souls, mingling with muffled, bloody wails, suppressed, sobbing moans, and agonized, ravenous screams. When I rolled down the window, the heavy, sweet, nauseating, disgusting, bloody stench that filled my nostrils was a repulsive, eternal mixture of rotting flesh, crumbling hopes, and spilled, dried, clotted blood. I tried to start it again. The marching sound was like a desperate, last desperate plea, an eternal plea echoing in the heart of the desolation. There was no answer, just that disturbing, gnawing, bloody humming, and the occasional gut-wrenching child's cry, hysterical women's screams, muffled men's growls, and now the eerie animal howls. Then, out of the fog, movement began to merge. At first they were vague, dancing, shapeless, blurred, bloody shadows, then gradually, with terrifying, perfect, bone-chilling, bloody clarity, they took on human forms. Their faces were white as lime, their eyes like deep, lightless, dark, bloody, rotten cavities. Some of them had limbs bent at strange, unnatural, broken, bloody angles, as if they were victims of horrible, bloody, shattered, rotten accident. Some of them had dark, dried, tarry, clotted bloodstains on their bodies, tattered, rotten, bloody clothes, silently, painfully, eerily. Like participants in an eternal ceremony, they began to circle my car, slowly, softly, with bloody steps. I could not take my eyes off them, as if my soul was begging to leave my body and join them. Those empty, lifeless, bloody gazes were mercilessly sucking the last shred of hope out of me. Just then I heard a violent, metallic creak on the roof of the car, followed by a tearing sound as if a huge, invisible, bloody claw was trying to crush the car, to tear it apart. And then a cold breath appeared on the back of my neck. A figure with a face of indescribable torment, deep, eternal pain and despair, slowly reached for the icy, rusty, bloody, rotten handle of the driver's door. His fingers protruded like broken, bare, bony, purulent, bloody twigs. A cold, sticky, disgusting, rotten, bloody touch, like the damp, rotting, bloody, eternal hand of death, flowed down my spine like a river of ice, freezing each vertebra, gnawing at my soul. I closed my eyes tightly, my teeth clenched together, my lips trembling. That unbearable howl had now turned into a ferocious, demonic, bloody scream in my ears, as if thousands of lost voices were wailing at the same time. A hoarse, wheezing, vengeful, bloody breath was at the back of my neck, followed by a whisper-like voice, deep and icy. You came to us. You are ours now, forever. You cannot escape. Your blood is ours. Just then, from the back seat of the car, I heard a sharp, predatory clawing sound, as if some invisible, hungry, bloody animal was tearing at the fabric, followed by a cold, mocking, evil, bloody laugh right in my ear. At the same moment, a vague, bloody handprint appeared on the windshield. When I opened my eyes, the figures seemed to have disappeared for a moment, leaving only that dense, inky black, suffocating, bloody, decaying fog. But the trace of that cold touch and whisper was still there, like a deep, bloody, rotten stain on my skin, on my soul. I tried to start the car again. This time the engine came to life with a shaky, painful, growling, bloody growl. I stepped on the gas, and the car began to move slowly. But the fog was still there, as if the highway itself was a living, malevolent, malicious, hungry, bloody, rotten entity, pulling me into its dark, endless, bloody labyrinth. Just then, ahead of me, through the fog, a flickering, yellow, sickly beam of light appeared. I drove towards it hopefully, and as the lights got closer, I realized it was an abandoned, blood-blackened, ruined, decayed roadside diner, emptiness peering in through its broken, dark, bloody, fly-infested windows, and its rusty, creaky, bloody sign playing an eerie, painful, bloody melody in the wind. I stopped and got out of the car with trembling, weak, ice-cold, bloody legs. The surrounding hum was unbearable here, deafening, soul-destroying, blood-curdling. It was as if the screams of tortured, helpless, bloody, rotten souls were echoing behind the walls. Just then, a high-pitched, ferocious, bloody female scream echoed from inside the restaurant, followed by a wet, fleshy thud and a bloody, rotten silence. Just then, a violent, bony, bloody hand struck the car window, and I turned startled to see a pale-faced, angry, bloody, decayed figure cling to the glass, hatred pouring from its empty, bloodshot eyes. At the same moment, there was a loud thud from the trunk of the car, as if something was banging inside. The door of the restaurant was ajar, hanging off its hinges like a broken tooth. I took a few timid, trembling, bloody steps inside. The air was even colder and heavier here, as if years of blood had not dried, and a metallic, disgusting, bloody, rotten smell pervaded the place. Broken plates on the floor, rusty, bloody, rotten knives, and torn, blood-stained, blackened, rotten waiters' aprons were like silent, bloody, rotten witnesses to the horrors this place had once been. Suddenly, from the kitchen, I heard the sound of dragging and a muffled, bloody, rotten moan. With fear and an unbearable, morbid, bloody curiosity, I moved in the direction of the sound. Just then, a lamp hanging from the ceiling began to flicker, followed by the sharp sound of breaking glass. In the kitchen, I saw a young man cowering against the wall, his eyes wide with terror, a deep, bloody, rotting knife wound in his chest. When he saw me, he begged in a shaky, whispered, bloody, rotten voice, "Run! They are still here. They will take you too. They will drink your blood. They will steal your soul." Just then, a dark, shapeless, bloody, rotten shadow appeared from behind him and knocked him down. A mocking, evil, bloody, rotten laughter emanated from the shadow. It penetrated my bones, froze my blood, rotted my soul. Just then, a piano sounded from the room next door. A broken, sad, bloody, rotten melody, like the lament of lost, bloody, rotten souls. Just then, the sound of the piano suddenly stopped and was replaced by a high-pitched, blood-curdling, ferocious scream, as if someone was being skinned alive. At the same moment, I saw a shadow moving on the floor, as if something invisible was crawling. I staggered backwards, my heart beating like it was going to tear my ribcage apart. Just as I was about to run outside, a moving shadow appeared at the end of the corridor. A tall, hunched, rotten, bloody figure was coming towards me, dragging broken, bloody, rotten limbs. Its face was hidden behind a deep darkness, but in that void I could see two burning, vengeful, bloody, rotten eyes. A black, tarry, bloody, rotten liquid flowed from its mouth. Just then, the figure reached out its hand, and long, sharp, bloody, rotten nails grew from its fingers. Just then, a corpse dangled from the ceiling, its rotten, bloody face turned toward me, blood oozing from its empty eyes. I rushed out of the diner and jumped into the car, desperately starting the engine at full throttle and driving as fast as I could away from that inferno. In the rearview mirror, I watched the abandoned, bloody, decaying diner and the eerie, deformed, bloody, decaying figure running after me. The highway was still covered in that dense, inky black, suffocating, bloody, rotten fog, but it was no longer just a road, but a bloody, rotten trap where souls were tortured endlessly. Just then, in front of me, a flickering, yellow, sickly light appeared in the fog. It was car headlights. Hopeful, I honked the horn, I flashed my lights. The lights got closer and the silhouette of another car appeared. Hope sprouted inside me. Maybe I wasn't alone. Maybe there was a way out of this nightmare. The other car slowed down and stopped next to me. An old man got out of it. His face was tired, but his eyes looked warm. "You are lost on this road," he said in a calm voice. I was lost once too. Just then, on the side of the road, a rotten figure of a child with a pale face and bloody clothes appeared and extended a bloody, rotten hand towards the car. The old man sped past him. The man motioned for me to get into his car. I hesitated. Should I trust him? But the glimmer of hope was so strong that I couldn't refuse. I got into his car. The man drove slowly. The fog was still thick, but it seemed to be lifting a little. The radio's static gave way to whispers, but this time they were sad, not threatening. Just then, a shadow appeared in the back seat, and I felt a cold, rotten breath on the back of my neck. At the same moment, the car windows began to crack. After a while, the fog completely dissipated. The first bright rays of the sun dazzled my eyes. My navigation device finally found a signal. I had a bar network on my phone. The Interstate-47 sign was behind us. "You are safe now," the old man said. "This road holds some souls captive forever, but some are saved." Just then, the shadow in the back seat grew more distinct, its cold, putrid breath spreading like an icicle over the back of my neck. At the same moment, the car windows began to crack like spider webs, as if some invisible pressure was shattering the vehicle. The whispers from the radio were clearer now, calling my name. I asked him where he was going, my voice a shaky whisper. "Just traveling," he said, smiling. But there was a deep sadness in his eyes. I helped the lost. Then he looked into my eyes and added, "Remember, no matter how dense the darkness, there is always light." Just then, in front of us, a huge, shadowy figure emerged from the fog. His eyes were burning like embers, and black smoke was coming out of his mouth. The smile on the old man's face vanished, replaced by deep fear. "He's here," he whispered in terror. "It's too late." The old man stepped on the gas, and the car began to move at full speed. But the shadowy figure was catching up with us at incredible speed. The car began to shake, as if invisible hands were pulling us. The cracks in the windows widened, and a cold, grave air filled the interior. The whispers from the radio had now turned into screams. The shadow in the back seat leaned over me, its rotten fingers grabbing my hair. When we reached the next town, the old man suddenly swerved and the car went out of control. We began to skid. The world around us blurred. The last thing I remember was a violent crash followed by endless darkness. When I opened my eyes, I saw a bright white light. My head was throbbing. I ached everywhere. I found myself in a hospital room, with a police officer and a doctor looking at me with concern. "You survived," the doctor said in a tired voice. "A few days ago, you were found unconscious in your wrecked car near Interstate 47. We don't know how it happened, but you are alive." The police officer said, "There were no other cars on the highway. It was as if you were alone," the police officer said in surprise. "And there's no sign of that old man." I stayed in the hospital for days trying to explain what happened. The foggy nightmare, the shadowy figure, the old man. But no one believed me. Everyone thought it was post-accident trauma. But I knew something had happened on that highway. That old man. Maybe he really was an angel helping lost souls. Maybe that shadowy figure was the darkness of that road, and I had narrowly escaped its clutches. After I left the hospital, I never drove on Interstate 47 again. The highway has always remained a ghost road, erased on my maps. At night, sometimes I think I hear that distant hum, the desperate wailing of those lost souls. And every time I hear it, the burning eyes of that shadowy figure and the sad smile of that old man are etched in my mind. Maybe Interstate 47 is still there, waiting with its foggy nightmare with its lost souls. And maybe one day, another unfortunate traveler will be dragged into that darkness. But I know that even in the deepest darkness, there can always be a faint glimmer of hope, as long as we survive long enough to see that light. And maybe that old man is still traveling through that fog for the next lost soul.